This is the Outback QB Daily. This is week one of the NFL, and today we are talking international games. Let's get into it. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the NFL, or the Outback QB Daily NFL show, I should say, on a beautiful Tuesday morning here in Adelaide. The savage winds that we've been experiencing have died down, and we've got lovely sunshine and slightly cloudy skies coming through the studio windows here at Muscle Cat Media. Now, a few news items just to get through and update you on before we get into the international games. History lesson. Let's call it a history lesson and a little bit of a look forward into the future. Ricky Pearsall. So we know by now that he got shot in the chest in an attempted robbery last week, just a few days ago, and he's inevitably been placed on the NFI list, the non-football injury list, out for at least 4 weeks. We pre-record the Thursday main show, so we didn't quite know that information then. So on the Thursday show, you'll hear us sort of guess, our best guess at how long he'll be out. We didn't think he'd be playing week one. Really, it seems like it's a miracle he's alive, because according to reports, he got not only shot in the chest, but the bullet went through his chest and out the back of him and missed all of his vital organs. So, crazy scenario. And again, a miracle that he's okay, and we're glad that he is, and we hope he makes a full recovery, obviously. So good luck to Ricky Pearsall. In far less important news, Ja'Marr Chase, the holdout continues, or the hold in, or whatever you want to call it. He didn't practice again yesterday. So Zach Taylor, head coach, said we're taking it day by day. He's a bit gun-shy in the media now. He doesn't want to step out of line like he apparently did last week by speaking too soon. So that's a problem leading into week one. Let's see if Chase plays. That'll make a big difference to the Bengals. And Trent Williams, he's still holding out San Francisco, and the closer this gets to games, the more it looks like he's going to miss. So we had all of our focus on Brandon Ayuk, but maybe Trent Williams was the one we really needed to worry about, because he's a big piece of that offense. International games. Why are we talking about it? Because, well, the second game of the season on Saturday, our time, Philadelphia versus Green Bay. It's in Brazil. The first time an NFL game has been played in South America, and Brazil, of all places, Sao Paulo, Corinthians Arena. What a place to do it, and a cracking matchup to start. So let's have a look at a little bit of the history of international games in the NFL. They did the first one for points in 2007 in London. That's where it started, the first series. There have been 36 games played in London in the NFL. That's a lot. That's a lot over the last 17, 18 years. 36 played, and another 3 this year. The ones coming up are New York Jets and Minnesota, and then Jacksonville play Chicago, and they also play New England. Between 2016 and 2022, there was one game played per year in Mexico. But if you cast your mind back to 2018, you might remember there was a game between the Chiefs and the LA Rams. It was meant to be played at the Estadio Azteca. It's a hard one to say, in Mexico. But due to the condition of the field, they had to move it because it wasn't up to standard. So they moved it back to the Coliseum in LA. And you may remember this because it was a 54-51 point bonanza, just an attacking fest, one of the greatest games ever, one of the games that helped me to fall in love with the NFL. No defense in sight, 991 total yards. Jared Goff had 413 yards and 4 touchdowns playing for the Rams. Patrick Mahomes, let me get this right, had 478 yards, 6 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. Incredible stuff. Go back and watch those highlights. It's an insane game. The Rams won it by 3 points in the end, 54-51. There were 35 points scored total in the last quarter alone. And Tyreek Hill, he started like a house on fire. He racked up 215 yards and 2 touchdowns as well back when he was with the Chiefs. So that was meant to be in Mexico. Unfortunately for them, the most memorable game of the Mexico International Series was actually played in California. Germany has had 3 games, 1 in Munich, 2 in Frankfurt. There's a deal to split those games across the 4 years between Frankfurt and Munich, so it's back in Munich this year. It's the Giants and the Panthers, so starting to get a European flavour there. There's quite a big following of NFL in Germany, and I think that's why they sent those games there, because for some reason, whatever reason, NFL Europe seemed to be the most popular. Remember those NFL Europe leagues where sort of like the XFL or the USFL, where some random players would go there and try and get themselves back on an NFL roster? That seemed to have most success in Germany over the years. And that brings us to this week. So Saturday morning, our time, as I said, the first ever game in South America, in Brazil. It's interesting what's happening with the teams afterwards. Normally with the London games, they get the bye afterwards. Not always, but normally they do. With this, because it's week 1, you can't have a bye in week 2. There's no byes yet. So they've given both the Packers and the Eagles a home game next week. They've got a home game next week. The Packers host the Chargers. So I don't know. Have they given them a softball? Not sure. Maybe the Chargers will be better than we're giving them credit for on the show. And then the Eagles, their Monday Night Football at home against the Falcons. So Falcons might be spicy opponents. However, at least the Eagles get the extra day's rest and they get a home game. As far as the teams that have played the most internationally, well, I looked this up and every single team has played an international game. I wondered whether some of the bigger franchises had escaped it and said, we're not travelling. But over the course of the last 18 years of this international series, every team has played at least once. There are 5 or 6 teams that have only played once, including the Eagles and the Packers, so they now play their second game. But the team that's played the most, I'll give you a few seconds to think about it. One of the newer teams. They played in London a lot. It's the Jacksonville Jaguars. 11 times they have played internationally. And with their extra 2 games this year, it's going to be 13, which is a lot of international games. So they've basically got a hold on London. They've played all 11, and soon to be 13 of their international games in London. Every single one in England. Miami, they've played 6 times internationally, and the Raiders 5 times. So it makes sense with Miami and the Raiders. They're very recognisable international brands. So I guess there's a bit of familiarity already that draws people to watch those games internationally. But yeah, Jacksonville, for whatever reason, their second home is England. So 13 games there. Not every country, but a lot of countries actually have affiliated teams internationally. So there's a marketing agreement basically between the NFL and the gridiron body or the NFL expansion efforts in all of these different countries. And for Australia, the LA Rams and the Philadelphia Eagles are the 2 teams that are affiliated here. So I think I've seen a lot more LA Rams stuff on socials, with Gridiron Australia, a little bit of that, but now there's an NFL international office based here as well to promote the game in Australia and New Zealand. And of course, there's the talk of Australian games coming in a few years' time in Sydney, it looks like. So we'll keep our eyes out for confirmation of that. That's definitely in the works. It will definitely happen. We're just waiting for a few more details on exactly what and when and how we get it. But that stadium will be full of Outback QB listeners, I'm sure. The LA Rams have done a little bit of social promo in the Australian market. You probably remember last year, Todd Gurley, or you may not, but Todd Gurley came out, the former Rams superstar running back, came out and did a little bit of promo in Australia. So that's the kind of effort they're trying to promote. The Rams, the Eagles. It makes sense. There's a big Eagles market in Australia already, so that's one of those teams that's affiliated in the Aussie market. Now, I'm just thinking back to that game, 54-51. Did Todd Gurley play in that? I reckon he might have. He did. In a game where there were 105 points and he was a superstar at the time. He only had 55 yards on 12 carries and didn't do a whole lot else. So, but there was a year where, Gurley was the offensive rookie of the year when he started, and he also won offensive player of the year. So this guy was a superstar, and then as tends to happen with some running backs, he just fell off a cliff and couldn't even get a job. One of the harshest roles in sport. So the Philly-Green Bay game, we're looking forward to that. We previewed that on the Outback QB main podcast. Dos is having a look at that game, but I'll give you a quick review of that on Sunday on the Outback QB Daily. So our Saturday show, we've got the KC-Baltimore season opener review, and then on Sunday, we've got a review of the first ever game in Brazil. And it's not a bad time slot for us either, so looking forward to that. All right, we'll see you all tomorrow.